9 in 10 autistic women are most likely to experience some kind of abuse. It may be sexual abuse or physical abuse, emotional, mental abuse.
Christine McGuinness,
a British model, television personality and autism advocate,
who has publicly spoken about her AuDHD diagnosis and raising 3 autistic children.
I was one of those 9 in 10. I was sexually abused. It's sad. It's something that is never, ever nice for anybody to talk about because of that 9 in 10. It's so important, and that's why I chose to share that.
If there is somebody listening and that's happened to them, do you have any advice for somebody like that?
Write it down, and when you're ready, share it with somebody that you are really, really comfortable with. I didn't say anything for 15 years, and it was only when I did that I got better within myself. I would tell little Christine to just really look after herself and look out for herself. I would give her a hug. I'd take her home, keep her safe.
You know that feeling when you're bored in class and you're swinging back on your chair onto 2 legs, but you accidentally swing back a bit too far. You're about to topple over, but you manage to correct yourself at the last minute. This episode is dedicated to anyone who feels like they're living in a constant state of that feeling. Have you got any early memories of feeling different?
Yeah, always. I can't remember not feeling different. As early as infant school, I remember just looking around and seeing all of the children playing together and me kind of, first of all, not even wanting to be there, but not knowing what to say or what to do or how to approach them. And these were kids that I was at school with for years. It was the same class. It was only a small class, same children, same teacher, but just was never as comfortable and as confident as all the other children.
I mean, it's heartbreaking, really, and very relatable. Do you remember how you felt in those moments when you were observing all of these other kids playing and you almost felt like a bit of an outsider?
I remember thinking, how are they doing that? I remember mimicking very, very early on. I remember copying almost word for word people's conversations. I would listen and copy to how to approach another child, and even playing it and laughing. If somebody else laughed, I would laugh. Yeah, and trying to get the right balance with that, like, was quite hard as a child because I didn't understand what I was doing. So to the point where if I had one friend, if she fell over, I'd fall over. She'd cry, I'd cry. And yeah, now I understand it as kind of as masking and copying, trying to fit in, trying to be like others. And that grew massively, almost out of control as a teenager, where by that point I didn't know myself at all. Didn't know who I was, what I liked, what I wanted. Didn't know anything. I was just copying whoever I was around at the time.
It's so relatable, and I massively relate to what you say. The sort of the shape shifting, the mirroring. You almost copy other people's mannerisms sometimes.
Yeah.
To be liked.
Yeah. I still do it, and it frustrates me because I know that I do it, and I'm aware of it, but I still can't help it. I'm definitely more subtle with it, and I'll check with myself a lot more, especially when it comes to clothes. It's something I fell into quite a lot. I almost play a role wherever I am, wherever I'm doing. It's almost always been a role. But certainly since Telly's come into my life, I will almost turn into the people that I'm around. And it still frustrates me that I do it. And I can't help it.
Does this behaviour of masking, and did it make sense to you at the time? If you look back at that young Christine at school, did that behaviour, were you aware of what you were doing?
No, other than the conversations, no. I remember specifically trying to listen, and when children would go and play together in the playground, I remember really, really trying to listen to what they're talking about, and maybe I can try and add to it and find some common ground. But most of the time there would be nothing anyway. I didn't really play with toys. I didn't really have anything at the time that I was massively interested in. I was definitely a loner, and I liked being alone. So even just me trying to make friends and trying to play with other children, that weren't me being me, because I didn't necessarily want to. It was just that that's what everyone else is doing. So to be like everyone else, I best go and join in.
And when you got home from school, when you were on your own at home, what did young Christine do to fill her time there?
Straight to my bedroom on my own. Loved it. I loved being on my own in my bedroom. That was my little sanctuary, my safe place. It still is now. I sit in my room for hours. When I was little, drawing. I love to draw. I love to doodle. Writing. I love to. I've always written, but nothing ever really makes sense. There's no journal or dear diary. It's kind of a lot of like scribbly notes or thoughts, or it might just be a word, and I'd write the word, but then I'd doodle all around it. I'd have music on. Music's always been massive in my house, in my head, in my home, in my heart. I love music, and now I understand it more. I think music is probably the one thing that really can help me switch off.
This behaviour of spending time alone, which is very relatable. I used to spend so much time in my room painting Warhammer. I remember at a similar age to what you're talking about. Did it make sense to the people closest to you, your nearest and dearest at that time?
No, not really. I think because I've got a brother and sister, and they were always quite social and would play together. I've got older sister, younger brother. They were really close, and I was the middle child. And for years, especially as a teenager, I just always thought, well, I've got middle child syndrome. Of course, I'm the one who's left out, because the oldest gets to stay up late, and the little one's the baby, so they get everything. And the middle child, sort of gets. They're not special, are they? They're just left to it. So I just felt a bit like that, and I think my mum was just always quite happy that I was home and safe and quiet, good little girl.
You've got a diagnosis of ADHD and autism, you said. How do you differentiate between the traits of ADHD and autism? In other words, is there a clash internally within
Constantly. Yeah, constantly. I feel like a walking contradiction. That's what I feel like. And it's a constant battle in my head of one part of me loves routine. I like everything organised. I like to know where I'm going, who I'm going to be with. I like to have notice so that I can plan and prepare. And then the other side, that one, just likes to come along and mess all of that up and go, no, that's really boring. Why don't we just go out and party? Or, don't wear that outfit, wear this one instead. And yeah, it's constant battling between the autism and ADHD. It does feel a bit like I'm two different people sometimes, but it's all in one head.
Very relatable. It really is. I think, although you can look at it with almost like a comical lens of ADHD pulling you in one direction and autism pulling you in another, and this internal battle between chaos and organization, and therefore this sort of this battle in the middle. Does it ever create turmoil inside you?
It's exhausting. But seriously, I like to laugh and joke as much as I can. I think laughter gets me through so much. But seriously, when I sit with myself and I look at my life and I look at the list of things that I need to do and the people I haven't got back to, it's exhausting. It's really, really difficult. Every single day there'll be something where I just visualise that emoji with the head exploding. I think I probably use it so much on my phone because it's kind of every day there'll be something where I just go, this is a lot. This is really, really is a lot to deal with.
When were you diagnosed with ADHD and autism, and why do you think it took you so long?
I was almost 31. It was not long after my children were diagnosed. I'd never heard of it when I was at school. I'd never heard of neurodiversity when I was a teenager. Throughout my 20s, I was quite the recluse, which I loved. I loved staying at home. I was a stay-at-home mum with 3 babies, and I absolutely loved it. And I didn't socialise or go out. And all of me, I suppose, my signs and symptoms were quite calm and settled because my life was so quiet. Apart from being a mum, looking after my babies, there wasn't an awful lot for me to do and organise. When my children were about to start school, the development delays were getting more and more obvious. I went to get them some help from a paediatrician. They had speech and language therapy, and they got diagnosed just before they went to school. And it was when I was sat in their therapy sessions, especially the food play therapy, which is exactly as it sounds. They play with food. I kind of sat there thinking I can't do what the therapist is asking my children to do, which was just, get a breadstick and swirl it around in some soup just to try and get them used to playing with different textures. And I couldn't do it. I've always been really, really particular with textures, not just with food, with fabrics, with clothes, with my bedding, with my bath towels, anything. But food's always been a really big issue. And when I was there, it was, the paediatrician kind of looked at me and she was like, does mummy want to play with the food? And I was like, no, thank you. You do it. The kids wouldn't do it. It kind of went from there. There was more and more similarities. I just thought, my children were similar to me because they were my children. But it became more apparent that all of the red flags that were coming up for them, that I had them too. I just didn't realise it was any different. I just thought that was us, that was me and them.
It must have been a huge amount to process. I mean, you heard those words, you have ADHD, you have autism. How did you feel? Can you walk us through the emotions you felt when you heard those words?
I was relieved. Straight away I thought of my children. That was the first thing I thought of. I was kind of like, okay, well, I've been so scared of talking to my children about their diagnosis. So at least now when I talk to them, it can soften the blow a bit and I can tell them that they're just like mummy. So that means that they're going to be okay because mummy's okay. But inside, mummy wasn't okay. Mummy was exhausted and mummy didn't know what was going on with a lot of important things in life because mummy would just shut it off and ignore it and forget about it. So there was a lot of unpicking to do. And I knew that it was the very, very beginning of a whole different journey for myself in self-discovery and figuring out who I was and what I wanted, because the more I understood it, there was no avoiding how much I masked. There was no avoiding how much I copied. There was no avoiding how much I people pleased. And that's been the biggest and the hardest thing to try and get some kind of control over because I really, really struggle to say no. And I'm a giver. I give far too much. And I've let too many people in, and it's cost me in many different ways. It's cost me financially, it's cost me in businesses, it's cost me with friendships. It's from just wanting to make other people happy. So it's been a lot. It's been a lot, and I still feel like I'm at the beginning. still so much awareness and learning to do. I mean, it's amazing. Thank you for coming on here and sharing your journey. You mentioned people pleasing there, and it's such a big topic. I had a top psychiatrist on here talking about people pleasing, and he said a lot of the time it's a defense mechanism. You're trying to avoid a criticism. You're desperately trying to avoid a rejection because the reaction to criticism or rejection is so intrinsically physiologically painful that we will do anything to stop the risk of encountering a rejection. How are you in the face of rejection and criticism? I think I'm very careful to not put myself in places where I might experience it. So I'm over aware, maybe. I feel very fortunate that I'm able to do what I do for work, because I don't know what I would do. The thought of going for a job interview when I was a teenager, I very, very briefly modelled before I'd done TV work. So I was just an average model. Like the rest of them, you'd go to castings, you'd go to so many auditions almost you go to. And it was constant rejection, one after the other. Yeah, I didn't last long. I didn't last long at all. But yeah, I think, like you said, that it's the fear of rejection, but also wanting to be liked. Wanting to be liked. I think I will go extremely out of my way to make somebody else happy, even to the point of where I could be unhappy. I could be so unhappy, but I'll go along with it and do it because I want to be a really good friend or I want to be a good partner, and I just want to make sure that they're okay and they're happy, because if they're happy, that means I'm a good person. But then I'm exhausted and not happy.
Well, I guess it goes back to what you were saying earlier about your time in school. It's that desperation to be liked. And at school, you were shape-shifting, mirroring, desperately trying to mold yourself to be the most likable version.
Yeah.
And I guess that comes with us a lot of the time into adulthood. A very blunt question, but I think a relatable one. Do you struggle to make friends?
Yeah. I don't. Right now, I've got one very good close friend, Duncan, who I love so much and I appreciate, and I hope that I get to keep him forever as a friend. I tend to always have one friend throughout life. It's always been like that. So throughout infant and junior school, it was just that one friend. And then when I went to senior school, I had one friend. 20s, there was just one. And then my 30s now, yeah, Duncan. I don't think it's me. I don't think I'm a bad person. I don't think I'm a bad friend. But I think I can be extremely unreliable. I change plans a lot. I can be late. I forget to answer the phone. I forget to reply. You know, so if Duncan was ever in a really serious emergency, you know, he probably knows not to call me. As much as I love him and I want to be there as much as possible, I kind of, there's times where I'm more available and times when I'm not at all. So I've just got to the point now where I accept the way I am and I'm okay with the way I am. And if that means that I haven't got a long list of friends at my funeral one day, that's fine. Nice and peaceful. How I like it.
Gosh, I mean, the unpredictability of when you are going to be emotionally and communicatively available is so relatable. It's like you can excitedly text someone, but then ignore their attempts to call you back because the dopamine is just gone.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll just do it if I've got a minute where I think, oh, okay, right, I can respond to that now. I'll do it now. But I've got no plans to have a conversation. This isn't like a two-way thing. It's just it's an output. Yeah. And that's it. The input's not working. Yeah, it's hard, and I get it, and I don't hold any grudges. And for anyone that's been in and out of my life, I'm very, very fortunate. I've worked with so many amazing people. I've got so many contacts. I will say that, loads of contacts. But when it doesn't develop into more of a friendship, I'm okay with it because I keep moving on. I can't stay stagnant. I just can't. I like to keep going. And I'm actually okay with meeting new people. It used to be quite a big fear for me. But now I'm sort of okay with it because I think I've just accepted that I'm in and I'm out. That's kind of what I do.
The idea of having one friend is for me, sounds perfect. And the relatability, I think, comes from relating to that, but also then recognizing that there sometimes is a degree of loneliness that comes from that inability to make or maintain friends. How do you feel when you see a group of women on a night out together in a picture?
Do you know, I kind of unpick the whole picture, the whole vision. I will think about it all. I will almost interview them in my head. I'll be thinking, so when did you all meet? How long have you all known each other? And are you sisters or are you friends? And like, I want to know the whole story in my head, but I don't want to be one of them. I'm busy. I'm so busy. And I have so many conversations in my own head to keep up with that I would struggle to be in a big social circle anyway. So it's something I'm trying to get more used to with work. And I've kind of accepted that sometimes at work I have to eat with other people and share hotels and things like that. And I'm becoming okay with it because I want to work and I want to be busy and I'm grateful for the opportunities. But I've always kind of got a bit of a backup plan of that, I just need to go make a call or,
Yeah, know where the exit is. Yeah. And the worst
it
is when
sounds rude, doesn't it? It does sound rude. It sounds like I'm not social. But I'm not.
Well, I think I think forcing yourself to be sociable is masking, isn't it? Sometimes you can go to a party and you feel like you said there, you feel rude when you have to just leave. The social battery just goes zip, gone, and the Christine or the Alex that turned up is a very different Christine or Alex to now because I've exerted so much energy into trying to appear quote unquote normal or whatever that I just need to get out. Now I feel like I'm just gone internalized, sometimes non-verbal. Do you find that you're better now at giving yourself an easier time when you do things that past Christine might have thought were rude?
I laugh at myself so much now and I'm so grateful that I understand myself because the amount of times that I have been to really big, incredible events, like the Pride of Britain Awards, for example, so lucky to get invited. And for the first 2 or 3 years that I attended, I remember being in the room with my head down. I'd wear the plainest thing to try and just blend in because I didn't want to stand out. I almost felt like I was apologising for being there before I'd even got there. Like I didn't deserve to be there and I had nothing good to say around the table. And I kind of detached myself massively from all of these TV people, even though I was one of those TV people on that table. I would just think, I've got nothing to say. I've got nothing that I can add to the conversation and, I shouldn't even be here. And it was awful. The anxiety of having to speak was absolutely awful. And I couldn't understand why everybody else was just having a great time and I couldn't wait to leave. Since my diagnosis, I now go to the same events. I go how I want and I go in smiling. I usually go in last to avoid the busyness. I avoid the foyer bit. There's usually always a bit of a, people drinking champagne and mingling before they get into the event. Completely avoid that. Don't do that. And I go and I sit and I enjoy it. I try and make sure that there's somebody that I know on the table that I can have conversations with if I need to, and I make sure that I leave whenever I want to. Whenever I feel like I've had enough, I just politely say, "Okay, I've got to go now," and I'm okay with it. And I think if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be going anymore. And people might listen to this and think, "Well, why do you go? If you don't like it, why would you go?" But I actually do. I do enjoy it. I do enjoy it, just not for too long. And it depends on the whole day. It depends on what's going on in my life at that time. If I know that I'm going to have some downtime afterwards, for the next couple of days, I can burn out comfortably and enjoy just chilling, then I'm more likely to stay out late and enjoy it and have fun. If I know I've got loads of things to do, I'm not going to be able to relax and enjoy anything. It's going to play on my mind. I'm going to be hypersensitive to everything, the noise, the people, the music, like everything in the room is going to feel like it's magnified. And that's where I'm going to be going, okay, right, is it too early for me to leave? Or, yeah, it's kind of just doing what works for you at the time.
Yeah, gosh, I mean, it's so inspiring. You clearly have a huge amount of self-awareness. You understand that there could be other areas of your life that are taking up a lot of mental energy. Things could be bad at home. Things could be bad at work. And if they are, then you might not be able to go to that event. But if they're going well, then you probably will have enough mental, internal energy to go to the event for an hour. Even if you now have the self-awareness that means skipping the foyer social event.
Yeah.
And recognizing that, you can leave 2 hours into it with a
and
polite,
that it's okay.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's allowed me to go enjoy things and laugh at myself and just be okay with being a little bit different. And I think knowing that I'm not rude has just been the biggest weight off my shoulders. Forever feeling like the unsocial one has damaged me massively for years and years. It's really, really hurt me. I've been so hard on myself for not having loads of friends, for not constantly, being there and being involved in the conversations. So hard on myself. And now I'm kind of like, I'm laughing at myself, going, yeah, I am a bit unsocial. Yeah, I do get there late and I leave early, and yeah, it's how I am.
Yeah, no, it's so inspiring, and that's why I'm so grateful for you to come on today, because I think people like yourself speaking so honestly and openly about their neurodivergent conditions is going to do so much to balance the narrative around what it actually means to live with ADHD and autism.
But you know what, though? I've got 3 children, and they're my biggest inspirations. They're my motivation for everything. And I do not want any of my children to do anything that they don't want to do. There's been far too many times that I've put myself in situations that I didn't want to be in jobs, in relationships, in friendships, in events, in clothes. So many times I've done stuff that I didn't want to do because I was too scared to upset somebody else. And I don't want my children to ever do that. I want them to leave the job, the party at any time if they're not happy. I want them to follow their passions and do what they love and what they enjoy. And I think by doing that myself and then watching it, hopefully they'll be extremely successful because they're going to be doing stuff what they love and what they want to do.
The whole generation right below us,
Yeah.
they will hear you and they'll take off that mask a little bit sooner than we did.
Yeah. I think the next generation is going to be groundbreaking. I'm excited to watch it. I think we're the ones who've kind of, we're putting it more out there on a platform. We're using whatever we can to talk and to educate, because I think that's the only way really, to help others understand is by talking and showing people what it's like, because unless you live with it yourself, whether it's in you personally or in your family around you, you don't really, really know. I think people still have this old-fashioned vision of a young boy really excited and jumping up and down. And yeah, not many people kind of get that for girls it's completely different. And for some boys too, but for the majority of girls, the masking, the hyperactivity side of it isn't necessarily physical. I'd say it's more mental for me. It's my brain that is hyperactive. It might be me little obsessions that are hyperactive for a minute. The way I collect things can be quite hyperactive, but it's not things that people would pick up on or see as much as they would in a male.
Absolutely. I mean, particularly with ADHD, I think we've come a long way with correcting and balancing the narrative around what it actually means with ADHD. Autism is a whole nother kettle of fish.
Yeah.
I truly believe that autism still hasn't had its day in the same way that ADHD has. And there is a huge amount of people out there that still think that to have autism means that you're Rain Man and you need constant care, you are nonverbal all the time. What do you think the current perspective is for the everyday person towards an autistic person?
I've seen big changes in the last few years since talking about my children and then talking about myself. I've seen big changes, which is great, but nowhere near where it needs to be. And I was talking to a doctor. Just last week about exactly what you've just said, and asked him why. I said, why is ADHD getting so much more attention and awareness? And I'm not against it. I'm here for it. Absolutely. I think neurodiversity for me is incredible when it's understood. Absolutely amazing. It's magical. And he said that he believed that the reason that autism is still not spoken about as much and still massively misunderstood is because there isn't treatment for it like there is for ADHD. And it stayed with me, and I have replayed that conversation 1,000 times in my head, because surely that's why it needs more attention and it needs a light shining on it because there isn't enough help or treatment. And I don't just mean like as in tablets, like we all know that there's meds for ADHD and there isn't for autism, but surely there's treatment in other ways, like in how I treat my children, and that can just be, you know, how I prepare their day. It might be using a visual calendar, you know, it could be giving them more notice on things or not overwhelming them with too much information. Treating people isn't necessarily just with medication. It's how we talk to them, how we treat them and prepare them for life and school. And it's sad. I think exactly what that doctor said is the reason why it still needs a lot of attention.
So much to think about, you know, and what you said there about it, there's ways to be kinder to yourself and to treat your mental health without pills.
Yeah.
And it has to start young. I think letting children know that if their interests and what they want to do don't align with the curriculum, for example, and if they're bad at maths or if they're bad at history, or if their interest is in music or sport or creating stuff, then that's okay, and to encourage difference rather than trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's not even just with, you know, the lessons at school, because obviously they need to be educated, so they've got to do the subjects that they have to do. But if they can choose to do like double music or whatever it is, my son would be double maths every day if he could. He loves numbers. You know, that's amazing. I think children should be encouraged to do what they love and what they enjoy. But I think more importantly, for me with my own children anyway, it would be more to do with socialising and going to parties. And for Christmas Day, I make sure that they know they don't have to. And a lot of the time they choose not to because they have a choice, because they are human and they're people, and they should be allowed to have a say in what they do in their life, even at a young age, to an extent, obviously. But for me, it works. And I love that my children are making their own decisions. When there's an invitation to a birthday party, I will show them. I will show them videos and pictures of where the birthday party is. I will ask how many children are going to be there, and I'll tell them. And if they decide that it's not for them, we send a sweet thank you message and a gift to whoever's party it is. And we politely decline the same way as I would as an adult if I didn't want to go to something.
Whereas in an alternative scenario, you could, if you were unaware of autism, you could almost force the child to go to that party. Say the child goes, has a meltdown, has an anxiety attack, and the shame that must come with that. And they're in their room on their own, overplaying that probably creates a mini trauma. Just your attitude and the way you approach that. Do you think that saves a lot of shame? And
it's not even so much shame. It's time and effort and energy for everybody. For me and all three children, if I was every single weekend going, right, come on kids, we must do something. It's the weekend and this is what families do. We, must go to the farm. We must go to a play centre and we all get dressed. No, it's not like that anymore. Everybody's different. Everyone's got different things what they want to do. And if they want to stay in and chill and have some quiet time, I don't blame them. They've been at school Monday to Friday. It's a lot of energy for somebody who's on the spectrum. It's a lot. I know how burnt out I used to get when I was at school. I know how burnt out I get now if I'm at a social event. So yeah, if they don't want to go somewhere, that's okay. And I make sure that they know that it's okay to say that they don't want to. I would rather teach them to politely decline than to say yes and then end up really unhappy or overwhelmed or overstimulated or exhausted. That's not good for anybody.
No, your phone isn't solely to watch brilliant new episodes of ADHD Chatter. You can also download helpful apps on it too, like Tiimo app. Tiimo app is a perfectly tailored app designed specifically to help improve your organization. It's something I use every day to make my busy schedule manageable and it works like a charm. Organising a podcast, writing books, taking meetings and running errands is so much to manage, you can end up getting overwhelmed and forgetting things. That is, if it weren't for the Tiimo app. And this is how. Tiimo is designed specifically to hack the neurodivergent way of thinking. We have a brain that might struggle with time agnosia, object permanence, memory cognitive load, task initiation anxiety, or procrastination. All things I also fall victim to. That is the ad read halftime whistle. Just a little more to go. The award-winning Tiimo app is the perfect life-hacking tool to help your time management and kick you up the bum when you need it most. If you want to stay ahead of the competition, then the visual planning Tiimo app is specifically designed to help your structuring, organising, focusing and goal setting. It has a visual timer providing a tangible and visual representation of time to help users pace themselves so you never miss a deadline ever again. It also has an efficient lock screen reminder service to alert those of you who are very out of sight, out of mind, with your chores and afraid you might forget them. It brilliantly centres all of your tasks in one place to streamline your overflowing schedules and make them much more digestible and a lot less intimidating. And for those who find big tasks too overwhelming to even start, Tiimo breaks them down into more manageable subtasks to get the ball rolling. And if you think Tiimo won't improve your life, you're wrong. Without their sponsorship, we'd not be able to survive as a podcast. So in some ways, they already are. Back to the interview. What do you think are some truths around living with autism that have showed up in your life?
The sensory side of things for me is quite extreme still. And it's one of them things that I can't seem to put a lid on or improve. And I'm trying. But yeah, the textures with clothes, with food in particular, food has been a massive issue for far too long. Being misunderstood at school, I ended up with an eating disorder, which is far too common. It's really, really common, especially for girls who are autistic. And it wasn't because I wanted to be slim. I still don't want to be slim now. And I don't actually think about my figure in how it looks. It's more, it's how I feel. And I just want to be healthy. I've got 3 kids, so I want to be healthy. At school, that never ever crossed my mind about how I looked. All I knew was that there was absolutely no way I was going to go into the canteen. There was no way I was going to queue up and then get to the front, not know what was there on display, because it was almost like a buffet thing that everybody else had touched. It'd be different every single day of the week. There was no menu, no planner at my school. And then you're expected to take your tray of food into a canteen that was just so loud. I can hear the echoing now still. I can picture it so clear. And then I would be stood there thinking, okay, where do I go do a sit with? I don't know anybody. I'm not friends with anyone. It was awful. I done it once. I done it the first day of high school. I done it once. Never ever done it again. So for the rest of my school years, I didn't eat. And sadly that turned into an eating disorder that I struggled to get control of. Nobody ever asked me why I wasn't eating. The doctor just looked at my mum and said, well, she's a teenage girl, obviously. She's got an eating disorder. She wants to be slim. And I didn't say anything because at the time I was so quiet. I didn't speak up for myself. And it's one of my biggest regrets. I wish I would have said to him, it's got nothing to do with that. It's got nothing to do with that at all. I just can't stand the noise and the smell of the food and the hustle and bustle of the canteen. I didn't like it. But I never said anything. I stayed quiet. And I got better. I did get better because I wanted to be a mum. And I'm really, really healthy now. I'm probably the healthiest I've ever been, but I still could do better. And it's purely, now that I understand it, it's all down to sensory issues. It's not just the room that I'm eating in or the people I'm around. It's the smell of the food, the texture of the food, the colour of the food. You're never going to find me with like a messy spag bol. Everything I eat is very beige and dry, and my children are the same. And I think that is that's one of the biggest autism flags in my house with me and my children that is so obvious. But to me, I didn't know any different. My children were the same as me, and I just thought, well, they're just like me.
How does that translate into like your experience going to the supermarket and choosing what to buy, what to eat? Is that a overwhelming experience?
Yeah, and again, it's one of those things that I never understood about myself. I never liked it, never enjoyed it. Now I understand. I will get a delivery whenever I can. I'll avoid the supermarket. But yeah, I used to go to the shop at 2-3 in the morning when it was really, really quiet. And I never thought to myself, this, why am I doing this now? Why am I going at this time? It was just something that I'd figured out. I could go to the shop at that time because it would be quieter. And now it makes sense. But yeah, it's the little things that other people find easy. It's those little things that I can't seem to change. And I want to be okay with it, but it's frustrating because other people find it quite easy to just nip into a shop and get a loaf of bread or whatever they need. Whereas for me, it's like a whole big massive mountain that I need to climb, and it's difficult.
The little things that other people seem to find easy. I mean, that's a great summary of a lot of the stuff we talk about on this podcast. Yeah. Do you find people make inaccurate assumptions about you because they know that you have autism?
I think because of how well I present, a lot of the inaccuracy is assuming that I'm fine. We all know that social media isn't real, even though we all know it. We'll still look and go, oh, look at her there on that red carpet. She's fine, smiling there. But they won't realise everything I've done just to get there. For that 1 second photograph that people see where I might look happy and I might look fine because I have absolutely mastered the red carpet smile. When actually I have had to make sure that I go to the same dress shop, that I have the same dress lady, that I have the same hotel, that I have the same driver, have the same hair and makeup artist. If none of them are around, if they're not available, that event is not happening. I'm not going. I'm not doing it.
One thing falls down and the whole event, you don't go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you also can't see. It's like, you've heard of the swan analogy.
Yeah, of
the
course.
feet inside.
Yeah.
That is what is happening inside. But I'll present as being absolutely fine. So for me, the inaccuracy is more of how much of a master I am at masking.
There's a quote from a BBC documentary you did, Christine, and you said, I was sexually abused like so many other autistic women. This is obviously extremely fragile territory, but something you've been outspoken about. But to raise awareness, and only if you're comfortable, can we talk about this experience?
Yeah. During filming, I was reading statistics, and one of them was that 9 in 10 autistic women are most likely to experience some kind of abuse. It may be sexual abuse or physical abuse, emotional, mental abuse. And I was one of those 9 in 10. I was sexually abused. And it's heartbreaking. It's sad. It's something that is never, ever nice for anybody to talk about. But because of that 9 in 10, it's so important. And that's why I chose to share that. I've got 3 children, I've got 2 girls, and I know how easy it is for us to end up in situations and not realise what somebody else's intentions are, because I've been there, and because I still do make little innocent mistakes on my part where I think somebody wants to be my friend, or somebody's offering me a lift to a hotel, or just trying to be helpful. I will think someone's being nice and kind. I won't see that as that somebody might be coming on to me or somebody might be flirting. So because I struggle with reading that kind of body language anyway, I'm more vulnerable to being in situations and kind of going, God, I did not see that coming at all. And that is unfortunately the case for a lot of autistic women.
Really 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10. I think the people pleasing has probably got a lot to do with it, especially in relationships. If you're scared of change, that can be another reason. Being scared of change, you might be more likely to just put up with behaviour that isn't really okay in a relationship, but you'll put up with it because you don't want to change. You don't want to then have to start again and meet somebody new, and that would change your whole life. So yeah, a lot of autistic women will kind of just go along with things and stay quiet, and then of course there's the fact that we all like to present perfectly and like everything's fine, everything's happy, and we never want to say if we were struggling or if things weren't okay. So therefore, we're more vulnerable to stay in situations for a lot longer than we should.
And if something terrible does happen, what do you think are the traumatic effects of having something like that happen to you? And what does the recovery process of that look like?
I think I can only go off my personal experience, which I would say probably quite typical for a lot of the women that I've spoke to that have had similar experiences have all said the same thing. It's almost like we will push it so far down in our mind that it never happened, and you forget about it and you move on. And of course it did happen, and your memory pops back up and you'll get triggered now and again with certain things, and those triggers can come from nowhere. It could be somebody's aftershave. It could be a song playing in a bar. Your memory is going to bring it back to you if you don't deal with it. But the first thing I think most autistic women do with any kind of trauma is really, really push it down and try and not feel it and try and not deal with it and not cope with it. And I think for anybody dealing with anything like that is hard and it's traumatic, and nobody wants to accept that that's happened to them. I think accepting it is the hardest thing, but you've got to talk about it and you've got to feel it and think about it to be able to push through, and you've got to just feel it and push through and keep going until you're on the other side where you can talk about it like I have done today and like I always will. I can talk about it and I'm not really emotionally affected. I'm so grateful that that's not me and my life now. I'm so grateful that I'm aware of putting myself in situations like that, even though I still could do better. I'm always learning, and I want to help other people learn too, especially, for anybody who's got children or is around autistic women themselves that may be vulnerable. It's good to know, and the only way people are going to learn is by talking.
Often I've read accounts where victims have had a terrible thing happen to them and then they've come out of it and they're blaming themselves. Do you think that is common? And if so, why do you think a victim might have an issue or struggle to identify something was not their fault?
Because I think I was talking about this the other day, it's so random. It's when we blame ourselves for anything, no matter how big or small, if something has gone wrong or something that shouldn't have happened, if I blame it on me and it's my fault, it's almost like I can deal with it. I don't want to accept that somebody else might have done something bad to me. I don't want to think that anybody could do that. So if it's my fault, then it's kind of easier to be harder on myself than to think that another human would do something so bad. But then when you really sit and think about it and go, well, did I say that was okay? Did anybody ask me if that was all right? Did I consent? No, I didn't. The blaming yourself part is kind of maybe I might have agreed to go back to a house party. I might have agreed to swap numbers with that person. But in my head, it was innocent. It was a friendship. I didn't know what was about to happen. And I think that's where a lot of women themselves, when they've been sexually abused, will blame themselves, you know, and you think about everything. You think, maybe I shouldn't have wore that dress. You know, maybe I should have wore trainers instead of heels. And it takes a long, long time to kind of know that it's not your fault. It's really not your fault. We should be able to wear whatever we want and go to any party and be around anybody safely. And that's how it should be. It's not how it is, but it's how it should be.
No, absolutely. These forms of assault, these most heinous forms of assault aside for a moment, do you think autistic women are particularly vulnerable to other types of abuse too?
Definitely. And I still fall into that bracket, and it frustrates me so much. And I think, again, the people pleasing, I will be the first person. It doesn't matter who I'm with, how long I've known people. If we're out anywhere, if there's a bill, I'll get it. I'll get it. Does anyone want anything else? I won't even be eating, obviously, because I don't want to eat with everybody. But if anybody else wants a drink or they want food, I'll get it. And I think there are times where some people will kind of sit back and just let you pay, let you do it. Because, you know, they know that you're usually just quite happy and grateful that someone wants to be in your company for a bit.
We've got a lot of people listening who either are autistic or relate to being on the autistic spectrum, and I've no doubt that many of them will have been in a position where they have experienced these terrible things that you're describing. If there is somebody listening and that's happened to them, and they haven't, for whatever reason, been able to talk about it or report it, do you have any advice for somebody like that?
Write it down. And when you're ready, share it with somebody that you are really, really comfortable with. And if you haven't got a safe person in your life, like your parents or a family member, find a professional. You need to share it with someone. I didn't say anything for 15 years. And it was only when I did that I got better within myself. And I accepted it. So I learned. I learned that it wasn't my fault. And I stopped avoiding busier places and parties and nightlife that I used to avoid quite a lot. And I stopped worrying about if I was dressed too sexy or if I should give somebody my phone number or not. I stopped worrying because I accepted it.
You could go back in time with the knowledge and the self-awareness and the understanding that you have around how your brain works now, and you could go back to the younger version of Christine who was in those vulnerable positions. What would you say to her?
I would say do what makes you happy. Stop using all of your energy to please everybody else. If people looked at people like energy instead of just people, I think we'd all be a lot more careful about who we spent our time with. And something I've learned is that I'm actually very intuitive in many ways. And I'm okay at making my own decisions. I think that's that self-doubt that has always been there from things happening in life that shouldn't have happened, and where I've blamed myself. That's took years and years of my free good time and my years that I should have had and experiences and work and life, and it's took far too much away from me. And I think that's probably the worst part of it is how long it carries on after something's happened when it's been traumatic. It's not over once the event's over. It affects you for years and years if you don't sit and deal with it and accept it and learn from it. And yeah, I would tell little Christine to just really look after herself and look out for herself and keep some energy for herself and stop giving it to everybody else.
Wise words and powerful advice. It's you want to go back, don't you? You wish you could sometimes and sort of put your arms around the younger version of you.
Oh my God, yeah.
And scream or whisper something in the ear with this new knowledge. But of course, we can't do that.
I'm gonna cry. And I actually never really get emotional, but yeah, and no one's ever asked me what I would do. I would give her a hug. I'd take her home, keep her safe.
Second best thing we can do, isn't it, Christine? We can talk about it, and a younger version of you will hear. A younger version of Christine will hear, and they will be better equipped to make decisions that will enable them to live a life that's more true to who they really are.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing here today.
Yeah.
Just finally, Christine, I always ask my guests to bring in an item that most represents ADHD for them. And yours is hidden under that cloth. Would you like a tissue, Christine?
Go on, sorry.
Right, cool. We're back after a quick tissue break. Just finally, Christine, we have a segment called the ADHD item. I ask every guest to tell me an item that most represents ADHD in their life. And yours, I'm going to reveal under this cloth now. Hey, look at that. Pass that to you. It's a mobile phone, a toy mobile phone, but represents a real mobile phone. Why is a mobile phone a representation of ADHD in your life?
Because I feel like, especially the new phones, they've got all of this information. They've got apps. They're incredible. They're creative. They can do so much stuff. But sometimes the Wi-Fi goes, the signal goes, or there's no battery. The battery dies, and then it's pretty useless. And I feel like that represents every part of my ADHD. All of the best bits are in there, but that ADHD paralysis. If I haven't recharged my battery, if I haven't communicated enough, the signal goes, my social battery goes, and everything is like a toy phone that just doesn't do anything at all. So yeah, that was what I felt like represented ADHD in the best way that I could put it. It's yeah. That's how
That's
I
amazing.
see it.
It's a bit like your red carpet story. You know, the phones are amazing. I'm sure you look amazing on the red carpet, but one detail falls away and everything just shuts down and becomes almost redundant in that moment.
There's no point in having a brand new Apple iPhone 16 with all of this amazing data and everything if it's got no charger, because it's going to run out. And I feel like I kind of use it, my own body. I use it all when I have got all of the energy and the ideas, and I go 100 miles, like as fast as I can. And I get it all done, and I burn out. And it's like a constant cycle. I forget to recharge, or I don't want to because I'm having too much fun in whatever I'm doing. And yeah, learning like how I do with my phone, that I have to put it on charge if I want to use it. I'm trying to learn from that and make sure that I do plan ahead, and I do put time in for myself. And like I said earlier, if I'm at an event and I'm enjoying it, amazing. If I want to have time out, that's okay.
Amazing self-awareness. And in your real phone, do you take screenshots a lot?
I'm scared to look at how many screenshots I've got. Loads. So many screenshots of everything. I screenshot quotes. I screenshot people's clothes. I screenshot almost anything. I've probably got more screenshots than I have like pictures of my children.
In the moment, right, you're convinced you're going to look at them again. Sort of take the screenshot to remind yourself to look at it later. But do you look at them? Do you remember to go back?
I've just started organising my photographs into albums. So I've got a screenshot album.
That's the autism coming in a bit.
yeah. I've took the leap and upgraded my phone, which I don't like to do at all because it's always different and I always mess it up and then I don't know where anything is. And that happened and all of my pictures were all over the place. So I started putting them into albums and I love doing it. I love organising my 40,000 photos on my phone. But I just can't find time to do it all. But I have got a screenshot album that I don't check.
Yeah. Are you a voice noter or a texter?
I'm coming round to the voice note, and I feel like with voice noting for me, it's actually highly beneficial. I can hear people's tone. I really, really struggle when the text messages come through and I don't know if the person's joking or not. I've always struggled with that. Like, especially if you're with someone who's quite sarcastic, and which I can be sometimes. But I don't know. I think voice note and it's quicker. It gets the message across quicker. But I don't need a whole podcast. I don't need a whole series on this. Yeah, under 1 minute.
Yeah. How many unread WhatsApps do you have?
Thousands.
Yeah.
Thousands. And emails. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely ADHD, very relatable.
I forget.
Yeah.
I forget. And then, I forget. If it's not there in front of me, it doesn't exist. So me very, very close people, especially with my manager. My manager's quite funny. He obviously knows what I'm like. So he will just keep sending me the same message. He doesn't even change the message. Like, hi, Christine, you still haven't got back to me about this job. Would you like to do? He just keeps sending the same copies and paste until I reply, but it works. It works for me. And now I do say to people, when I meet new people, I'll say to them, look, if I don't get back to you straight away, please feel free to just keep sending me the message and eventually I will remember to reply.
It's great advice, really. People listening, I'm sure, will be texting their partners now or friends or family the same message. They'll take that bit of advice.
I think I'd rather own where I'm not great at, keeping in touch. I would rather own it than have somebody else feel like they're unwanted or they're being ignored, or they're being forgotten about. I don't want anybody to feel like that. So I will give them permission to, bombard me until I reply.
What's your wardrobe look like? Is everything hanging up or do things find their way onto the floor?
It's extremely organised, over the top organised, and I still feel like I need to organise it. And it's become like a thing now that whenever I'm at home, I have to organise another part of my wardrobe, and it doesn't matter what time of day it is, everything will get dragged out and it will all be put back in its place. For that time of when it's all being dragged out, it's chaos. It's awful, but I can't not do it. I can't leave it. I'm kind of okay with leaving a suitcase because that can be there for weeks, but it's closed and it's out of sight, out of mind. But yeah, with my wardrobe, when I'm doing that, it can be chaotic, but right now it's extremely, I'm very, very proud of how organised my wardrobe is. My whole life is not organised, but my wardrobe is.
What about your washing machine? Do you remember to empty that after a load is finished?
I only do because I've got alarms set on it. So alarms that aren't on my phone right next to me. Alarms around the house are great and I rely on them. Otherwise, I would burn the food. I would leave the washing in for days. I would forget about it. These have alarms that keep going off until I physically go and change it. Whereas with my phone alarm, I'll just tap that off because it's there.
What a great little hack there.
Yeah.
Speaking of washing machines, I want to finally do the ADHD agony aunt section, which is called the washing machine of woes, because my ADHD item is a washing machine because I can never remember to empty it when the load's done. Although I am using the Tiimo app, which means I am getting a bit better, which is the sponsor of the show.
Okay.
But every week I ask my Instagram community to send me a ADHD woe, which I put in the washing machine. I choose one and I read it out to the guest to see if there is some wisdom to be shared.
Oh.
This week, Christine, in the washing machine of woes, someone has written in and asked, I have AuDHD and I find dating so hard. I feel like as soon as the guy I'm dating realizes I'm a bit different, they see it as too much work and then ghost me. Do you have any advice on what it takes to find a good partner for an autistic girl?
Oh, I think the right person will absolutely love every part of you. The right person will have the patience that you need, will have all of the understanding that you need. So if it doesn't work out with whoever you're dating because they're not okay with your own little quirks or your ways, whatever it is, then that's not the right person for you. So don't lose any sleep over it.
Amazing. It's straight to the point, isn't it? It's I guess, yeah, that intuition.
You don't want to be with somebody that is not okay with you being yourself. So if this girl, she's autistic and ADHD, the same as me, she's going on dates. But if the people in front of her aren't okay with who she is, why would you want to be with that person? Don't worry about it. Like every one of us is different and unique. And if that's not celebrated with your partner, then they're not the right person for you.
Just following on from that, do you think, I think it's quite natural, right, to mask to some extent on a first date? You sort of want to put your best foot forward and put your best version of yourself on the table. Do you think, how do you notice if you are masking too much on a first date and it might be a misrepresentation of your real self, which could cause problems further down the line?
I think it takes a lot of work to completely be yourself in any situation, not even just on a date, just whenever you're meeting anybody new. We always want to act our politest, best, happiest version. No one wants to be really real and go and meet someone new and start talking about how terrible their day's been or, how awful things are. Like, so anyone's going to go and pretend and mask to some extent. I think it takes a lot to be completely yourself. And I think it would be too much to expect for anybody on a first date to be going and giving their realest, rawest version of themselves. Surely everyone's going to show the best bits first. But I think just self-awareness, just make sure you're not acting so much where it's completely far removed from who you actually are, because eventually that mask is going to slip. And yeah, whoever you're dating or whoever you're trying to build friendships with or connections, they're going to see that, and then it's not going to work out. So it's just wasting everybody's time. Ideally, you need to be able to turn up and just be yourself. But to do that, you've got to love and accept yourself as you are, and that's hard.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing advice to finish on, Christine. Thank you so much. I know I keep saying "and finally," but there is one more. It's my brain getting muddled up. And finally, again, we have a closing tradition on the podcast where the previous guest writes a letter and they write 3 rules to live by and they put it in that post office and I deliver it to you to read. So I'll deliver the letter to you, Christine.
To the next guest. So whoever was here last just wrote this letter?
That's correct, yes.
Do you want me to open it?
Yes, please, yes.
Do you know I never open letters?
You said, yeah. It's the first letter you've ever opened. It's an exclusive on ADHD Chatter.
Step away from your phone. Have the occasional day off social media. I'm pretty good at staying off social media, but I'm not good at staying off my phone.
No, likewise.
Yeah, I spend so much time creating on my phone. I don't actually use social media an awful lot, but yeah. Be kind to yourself. Your difference is your purpose. Oh, I love that. It's something I say an awful lot. I really feel like all of this is my purpose. I only ever wanted to be a mum, and I was supposed to be my children's mum for all of these reasons, because I wouldn't have known about me if I didn't have those children. So it's completely, my difference is my purpose and my passion. I love that. In hard times, remember things will change. We become someone else with time. Every present problem is a dot on a future horizon. It's so true. Again, it's something I actually say a lot, and it helps me a lot. I often say it will pass.
Mm.
And I think in every way of life, good and bad, it always passes. Which is why it's so, so important to remember and enjoy the good times and try and be present, which is hard when you've got an ADHD brain. But to really try and be present when it's good, and when it's not so good, it's going to pass.
Yeah, this
Always
too
gonna
shall
pass.
pass. You know, the good times and bad times
Yeah,
are temporary, and move forwards.
yeah.
Enjoy it. Christine, thank you honestly so much.
Absolutely loved
I
it.
can't express how much this episode is going to be beneficial for the community. So thank you so much.
No problem at all. Thank you so much for having me.